Dawn breaks over the Judean hills as 15-year-old boys wake in villages scattered across Galilee. This is year 30 AD, and what modern people call teenage years doesn't exist here. Childhood ends abruptly around age 12, adulthood begins immediately, and the transition involves no gradual exploration, but sudden crushing responsibility. The morning ritual is identical across the region. Ritual hand-washing before prayers, reciting the Shema while facing Jerusalem, phylacteries worn by males who've had their bar mitzvah, the religious obligations shaping every day before any other activity begins. Boys at 15 already work full days, some learning their father's trades as carpenters or stonemasons, others managing family farms on terraced hillsides, still others hauling nets on the Sea of Galilee, the apprenticeship happening through observation and imitation until skills become automatic. Girls at 15 are typically betrothed, fathers arranging matches when daughters reach 12 or 13, the wedding happening within a year, pregnancy following quickly, most becoming mothers by 16, their childhood ending the moment menstruation starts and marriage negotiations begin. Education splits sharply by gender. Boys learning Torah in synagogue schools if families can spare them from labor. Girls mastering household management from mothers. Literacy remaining rare except among religious scholars. Most knowledge passing orally through generations. The villages are tiny and insular. Perhaps 100 to 400 people knowing everyone else's business. Reputation governing everything. Shame enforcing social norms more effectively than any law. Most people living and dying within sight of their birthplace. Housing is basic limestone structures. Single-room buildings often attached to natural caves for storage. Families sleeping together on mats. Livestock sometimes sharing the lower level in winter. Privacy remaining completely unknown to everyone regardless of age or status. Breakfast happens quickly. Leftover flatbread, perhaps some olives or cheese, water or diluted wine. The meal providing fuel, not pleasure. Everyone eating before scattering to the day's work. Hunger coming frequently when harvests fail. Roman soldiers patrol major roads. Tax collectors extract payments that push families toward ruin. The psychological weight of foreign control pressing constantly. Resentment simmering beneath forced compliance. Open resistance inviting brutal punishment. Religious identity defines existence, following dietary laws, observing Sabbath, celebrating festivals, maintaining ritual purity. These practices separating the community from Roman and Greek culture. Tradition serving as resistance to cultural erasure. Social hierarchy determines destiny. Wealthy landowners, moderate farmers, landless laborers, slaves with almost no movement between categories. A 15-year-old knowing exactly what his adult life holds because it mirrors his father's completely. If you think youth today is difficult, wait until you see what happened at 14 in these villages. What we're revealing today completely changes how you view biblical passages. Economic survival depends on extended family networks. Villages sharing labor during harvest. The poorest receiving support from mandatory tithes and charity. Individual independence remaining impossible. Collective survival providing the only path through hardship. The future arrives predetermined. A fisherman's son becomes a fisherman. A carpenter's son learns carpentry. Girls become wives and mothers, questioning one's station counts as impiety. Acceptance passes for virtue. Boys approaching marriage age feel mounting pressure, needing to prove they can support a family, working harder to accumulate minimal resources, the anxiety growing daily because failure means permanent subordinate status in their father's household. Girls approaching marriage age feel terror, knowing childbirth kills frequently. Understanding their value rests entirely on producing children, having no control over their bodies or futures, the fear proving rational given mortality rates and total male authority. The day ahead holds work. Fishermen's sons already on the Sea of Galilee hauling nets since before dawn, farmers' sons walking to terraced fields, craftsmen's sons opening workshops, each following the path carved by countless generations before them. On the Sea of Galilee, teenage boys work alongside fathers and brothers, rowing for hours before sunrise, casting nets with practiced motions, hauling catches that determine whether the family eats today, the physical toll accumulating in shoulders and backs that will ache for decades. The catch gets sorted immediately on the shore. kosher fish kept for market, shellfish and other prohibited species discarded despite their value, religious law trumping economic benefit, the sorting happening automatically after years of training, Jewish identity maintained through these daily choices. In agricultural villages, teenage labor proves essential. Boys guiding plows pulled by reluctant oxen, the wooden blade scraping rocky soil, every step requiring strength and patience, the work continuing from dawn until the sun makes further effort dangerous. The terraced hillsides demand constant maintenance, stone walls needing repair after winter rains wash away carefully placed rocks, irrigation channels requiring clearing, soil being carried uphill to replace what erosion steals, the infrastructure requiring endless attention. Craftsmen's apprentices learn through endless repetition, watching the master's hands shape wood or stone, attempting the same motions, corrections coming through demonstration, or sometimes through the sting of a leather strap, theory mattering less than proven technique. Girls draw water from village wells each morning, balancing clay jars on shoulders, the well serving as the female social center, information spreading rapidly among women, marriages arranged through these networks, knowledge about childbirth and herbs shared in hushed conversations. The water carrying happens multiple times daily, each trip requiring the same careful balance, the same burning shoulders, the jars holding perhaps 3 gallons, the well sometimes being half a mile distant, the labor never ending because water needs never stop. Grinding grain consumes hours of female labor, 2 women working the hand mill together, pushing the heavy stone in circles, their arms aching, the resulting flour coarse and containing grit that will wear down teeth, refined flour remaining unknown. Weaving occupies every spare female moment. The upright loom standing in the courtyard, warp threads weighted with stones, the shuttle passing back and forth thousands of times to create fabric, the work continuing until darkness makes it impossible. The pace gets determined by sun and season, no clocks existing to fragment time, prayers and meals marking the day's divisions, urgency coming from weather-threatening crops or Sabbath approaching. The rhythm unchanged for centuries. Conversation during work covers practical matters. Which families lost land to debt, whose daughter received a good marriage offer, what the latest teacher from Jerusalem said. Theology and gossip flowing together naturally, the sacred and mundane never separating. Teenage boys practice adult responsibilities, participating in synagogue discussions when permitted, taking on more challenging tasks, fathers and elders constantly evaluating their readiness, proving competence, opening paths to marriage and independence. The heat builds through morning. By midday, the sun beats down mercilessly, work slowing as temperatures climb, people seeking shade, physical labor threatening heat exhaustion, the climate governing schedules more than any human preference. Breaks come when continuation becomes dangerous, sitting in whatever shade exists, drinking water from shared containers, eating if food is available, the rest lasting only long enough to prevent collapse, then resuming. The fishing boats return to shore, teenage boys helping drag vessels onto the beach, unloading the catch, preparing nets for mending, the cycle continuing endlessly, the rhythm of fishing life being as predictable as the tides. Religious discussions happen naturally during work. Fathers teaching Torah interpretations while laboring, debating meanings of passages, questioning and answering in patterns refined over generations, oral tradition transmitted through conversation rather than scrolls most cannot read. The midday meal brings brief respite, families gathering if work allows, eating bread and lentils, perhaps some fish or cheese, the food providing adequate calories but no variety, the same dishes appearing across all seasons with minimal variation. Leave your like if this authentic reconstruction is revealing details the Gospels don't mention, but archaeology confirms about teenage life in Jesus' time. Sabbath begins at Friday sunset, girls helping mothers bake extra bread, boys completing any task that cannot wait, the entire community organizing around mandatory rest, violation counting as serious sin and bringing social consequences. The synagogue serves as community center, teenage boys attending services, learning scripture through repetition, occasionally permitted to participate in discussions, the simple building becoming the foundation of Jewish identity under foreign occupation. Religious festivals punctuate the year, Passover commemorating the Exodus, Pentecost celebrating harvest, tabernacles bringing variation to routine existence, teenage pilgrims sometimes traveling to Jerusalem, experiencing urban life, the temple, crowds beyond anything their villages offer. Pilgrimage to Jerusalem changes perspective, seeing the massive temple complex, witnessing thousands of worshippers, encountering Greeks and Romans and Jews from distant lands. The experience expanding awareness beyond the narrow boundaries of village life. Different religious movements compete for loyalty. Pharisees emphasizing strict observance of purity laws, Sadducees controlling the temple and collaborating with Rome, Essenes withdrawing to the desert, Zealots advocating armed resistance, common people navigating between these options. Jesus' teachings circulate through the region, stories about healings and radical interpretations spreading village to village, some finding hope in his message about the kingdom of God, others scandalized by his associations with tax collectors and sinners, opinion dividing sharply. Young followers face family pressure, parents forbidding participation in unauthorized movements, the decision to follow new teachers potentially causing permanent family rupture, conformity offering safety while curiosity invites danger. The political atmosphere crackles with tension. Hope for a Messiah who will restore Jewish sovereignty, mixing with fear of Roman retaliation, whispered conversations about resistance movements, collaboration with occupiers bringing economic benefit but social shame. Tax collectors extract crushing payments. Teenage boys watching their fathers hand over grain and coins to officials backed by Roman soldiers. The injustice burning, the powerlessness eating at dignity, no recourse existing against demands. Some teenage boys disappear to join zealots, drawn by promises of armed resistance, tired of submission, their families grieving while half understanding the motivation. The missing sons, sometimes returning dead, sometimes never returning at all. Evening brings the day's main gathering. Families eating together after sunset, sharing news and food, the meal serving as social center of daily life, relationships maintained, and culture transmitted through these nightly gatherings. Stories get told as hands continue working, grandparents reciting family histories and biblical narratives, oral tradition preserving identity, teenagers learning their place in the long story of Israel, the past feeling more real than any imaginable future. The evening work continues after eating. Men repairing tools by lamplight, women spinning or mending, productivity remaining essential when resources barely suffice, rest coming only when exhaustion makes continuation impossible. Dreams offer brief escape, some dreaming of different lives, others of religious visions, most dreaming of food or comfort or safety, the subconscious processing anxieties and hopes that cannot be spoken during waking hours. Sleep comes early because lamp oil costs too much, the family settling onto sleeping mats, prayers recited, the darkness absolute except for stars visible through the doorway, silence broken only by animal sounds and human breathing. Morning arrives with the rooster's crow, the cycle beginning again, the routine so ingrained that variation feels wrong, stability providing security even when stability means hardship. Share in the comments. Could you have thrived in this world where birth determined everything? Or would the constraints have crushed your spirit completely? Teenage fishermen inspect their nets, mending tiers, replacing broken sections, the maintenance consuming hours, good nets meaning good catches, neglect inviting disaster, the tools receiving more care than the people who use them. Agricultural work shifts with seasons, spring bringing planting, summer bringing weeding and watering, autumn bringing harvest, winter bringing maintenance and preparation, the pattern repeating with absolute predictability, surprises rarely welcome. Harvest time demands total mobilization, entire families working sunrise to sunset, racing against weather that could destroy everything, teenagers laboring alongside adults without distinction, exhaustion becoming irrelevant when survival depends on gathering every grain. The threshing floor becomes village center during harvest, grain being separated from chaff through backbreaking labor, the community working collectively, the results divided according to complex formulas accounting for land ownership and labor contributions. Teenage boys learn negotiation skills, accompanying fathers to market, watching transactions, understanding the delicate balance between getting fair prices and maintaining relationships that will span decades, economics and social bonds remaining inseparable. Market days bring exposure to wider world. Traders from coastal cities, pilgrims heading to Jerusalem, occasional Roman officials, the mixing of cultures and languages providing glimpses of life beyond the village boundaries. Girls remain more isolated, their world confined to household, and female networks, the few public appearances heavily supervised, their knowledge of the broader world coming secondhand through male relatives' reports. Childbirth happens frequently in the village. Teenage girls helping mothers and sisters deliver babies, learning through observation what formal education never teaches. The mortality rates imprinting harsh lessons about reproduction's dangers. The cost of a teenage bride includes a mohar payment, the groom's family negotiating with the bride's father, discussing land access and labor exchange, the girl's consent neither required nor particularly relevant, the transaction happening between men. Teenage boys sometimes resist arranged marriages. The resistance usually futile, parental authority backed by religious law and social pressure. Rebellion bringing shame to the entire family. Acceptance serving as the only realistic path. Some teenagers join John the Baptist's movement, drawn by his calls for repentance and ritual cleansing, the message resonating with youth hungry for spiritual authenticity. His execution by Herod shocking followers and demonstrating the cost of challenging authority. The tension between tradition and change defines this generation, some clinging to established patterns, others drawn to radical teachers, the community fracturing along these lines, families divided by theological and political differences. Illness strikes without warning, fevers killing children and adults alike, no understanding of germs or infection, prayer and herbs providing the only treatments, survival depending more on luck than on any intervention. Professional mourners arrive when death comes, wailing and tearing clothes, the public display of grief following prescribed patterns, teenage family members learning the rituals they'll perform repeatedly throughout their lives. The dead get buried quickly, bodies wrapped in cloth, placed in family tombs carved from rock. The funeral happening within a day, the mourning period following strict regulations, life continuing because it must. Stand on a Galilean hillside at sunset, watching teenage shepherds guide flocks home, understanding that this world produced the movement that changed history, that ordinary lives provided the context for extraordinary teachings. The religious fervor ran deep and genuine. Faith providing explanations for suffering, creating community solidarity, offering hope for divine intervention. The belief sincerely held rather than merely performed. God feeling more present than the distant Roman emperor. The teenagers who followed Jesus took enormous risks, leaving family obligations, abandoning economic security, following an unauthorized teacher, their radicalism more extreme than modern people realize. The social cost, potentially including permanent family estrangement. Most teenagers never encountered Jesus, living in villages he never visited, dying before his teachings spread beyond Galilee, their lives mirroring their ancestors' patterns exactly, the extraordinary happening alongside the utterly ordinary. The crucifixion traumatized teenage witnesses, public execution destroying hope, the movement seeming finished, resurrection claims initially meeting skepticism, faith tested to breaking point, the psychological impact lasting lifetimes. The early movement drew many young followers, teenagers proving more willing to challenge tradition, having less to lose than established adults. Their energy and idealism channeled into spreading the message, youth driving the expansion. Within a generation, this world began transforming. The temple destroyed in 70 AD, the diaspora scattering Jews across the empire, the world these teenagers knew disappearing, their children facing entirely different circumstances. Archaeological evidence reveals their material poverty, simple houses, basic tools, minimal possessions, the sparse physical culture confirming the harsh conditions, the gap between this reality and later religious art spanning centuries. Written records capture only fragments. Most of these teenagers remaining illiterate, their stories unrecorded, their individual lives lost to history, only the collective experience partially recoverable through archaeology and inference. The Gospels rarely mention youth explicitly, focusing on Jesus and adult disciples. young people appearing as background characters, their contributions unacknowledged, yet they must have been present, absorbing teachings they'd carry into adulthood. This environment shaped Jesus himself. His 30 years in Nazareth spent in exactly this context, his parables drawing from farming and fishing because these were daily realities, his understanding of poverty coming from experience rather than observation. The transition to adulthood happened abruptly. No extended adolescence, no exploration of options, no gap between childhood and adult responsibilities. Maturity forced early by economic necessity and cultural expectation. Many died young from preventable causes: infections from minor wounds, childbirth complications, malnutrition weakening bodies until disease finished them, violence from occupation or resistance, the mortality rate making survival past 30-something of an achievement. Yet meaning flourished despite hardship, relationships providing purpose, faith offering hope, community creating belonging, the absence of material comfort not preventing genuine joy or deep connection. Which aspect of life in Jesus' time should we explore next? The experience of women managing households under Roman occupation, or the economic systems that kept most families perpetually poor? Leave your vote below. You've walked through the daily reality of teenagers when Jesus walked the earth, witnessed the ordinary lives that form the context for extraordinary events, understood that the familiar biblical world was harsher and more constrained than most imagine. History reveals that sacred stories unfolded amid grinding poverty and political oppression, that divine moments happen to people living desperately ordinary lives, and sometimes the most significant transformations begin with youth willing to imagine something different.